The 2024 hurricane season was really something the residents along the west coast of Florida will never forget. And while many of us are still rebuilding, here comes another hurricane season. So to talk more about that, Dr. Michael Brennan, the director of the National Hurricane Center. Hello, Dr. Brennan. How are you?
Hi, Dave. Great to be with you.
You know, I'm going to say this, and I mean this in a very nice way. I really hope this is the only time we talk this year.
Totally agree. Yeah, last year, as you mentioned, was extremely busy with 5 U.S. hurricane landfalls, 3 of those in Florida. Yeah, it would be nice to have a quiet year without a lot of direct impacts, but we got to get ready regardless.
No, indeed. Let's go back to last season for just a second. And in particular,
Sure.
of course, Helene and Milton, 2 very different storms that both impacted the Tampa Bay area. And it was kind of eye-opening that Helene, almost 100 miles offshore, creates this record storm surge. What types of things did you guys learn from some of these storms last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think Helene was an extraordinary storm in all the wrong ways in terms of its intensity, its size, its forward speed, the level of impacts that Helene brought from Florida up through Georgia into South Carolina, North Carolina. It was the most impactful hurricane to hit the United States since Katrina in 2005, if you look from a fatality perspective, economic damage. And you're right, the large size of Helene meant that even though it made landfall well north of the Tampa Bay region with the center crossing the coast, that huge wind field created that very impactful storm surge in the Tampa Bay region, and more than 10 storm surge fatalities, again, from a storm that made landfall well north. And it was just an extraordinary storm and a reminder that those impacts in terms of storm surge, wind, heavy rainfall and flooding can occur well away from the center, hundreds of miles inland away from where a storm makes landfall.
I mean, just definitely eye-opening. And then Milton comes along and dumps 18 to 20 inches of rain. And it makes you realize that every single hurricane or any tropical system in general, always very different. And they always bring different aspects to it, the record-breaking tornadoes and stuff in Milton.
Yeah, that's right. Every storm is different. You can have a hurricane make landfall in almost the same location or affect the same area, but in very different ways. As you mentioned, Milton, again, brought very significant storm surge, but south of the mouth of Tampa Bay down into Sarasota County, Charlotte County, and actually had water blowing out of Tampa Bay to the north. But again, that landfall location is so sensitive. Those impacts are really down to mile by mile, scale in a given community. And you're right, we had a tremendous tornado outbreak across the central and southern portions of the Florida Peninsula, well in advance of Milton's landfall. Had high end for tropical cyclone tornadoes, very high end tornadoes, long track, damaging, fatality causing tornadoes. So again, it's just a reminder that mixture of hazards that comes with a tropical storm and hurricane really does vary quite dramatically from one storm to another.
Yeah. Let's talk atmospheric profile for a second. Sort of late last season, we got into kind of a weak, what we call La Nina. Then, of course, there's the El Nino. And then there's neutral, which is kind of where we're setting up shop here, at least for the first part of this hurricane season. Does that make it more difficult in just trying to forecast?
Yeah, because the El Nino La Nina cycle is one of the strongest predictors for how the overall activity in an Atlantic hurricane season will play out. So when you're in between, when you don't have a strong El Nino or La Nina, that level of impact from that phenomenon is going to be a little less. And so the activity is going to be determined by other factors, ocean temperatures, large scale circulation patterns, rainfall over Africa, the strength of the tropical waves that come off and come across the Atlantic. And there may be more variability, but it does make predicting this seasonal activity a little more challenging. Yeah. So there might be a little less certainty in the overall range of numbers this year. But again, what we always tell everyone is you have to prepare. Mm-hmm. And if the last few hurricane seasons in along the Gulf Coast and in Florida haven't reinforced that message enough, you've got to get ready again for 2025.
One of the things that I love that you all have done down there is every year it's new products, it's new guidance, new experimental things that you have done. For instance, last year, putting the warnings out throughout the entire state to get that message across. Do you have any new guidance or any new products that you're using this year or making permanent this year?
Well, that experimental version of the cone graphic with all of the inland tropical storm and hurricane watches and warnings, we're going to continue with that for the 2025 hurricane season, because you're right, that does a great job of showing where those wind impacts can occur and reminding people that those hazards can extend well beyond the cone itself. On hurricanes.gov this year, we're also going to have a large-scale rip current risk viewer that displays the rip current forecast information that all the local National Weather Service offices along the coastline issue, and you'll be able to see it in one place, because rip currents have become an increasing source of fatalities in tropical storms and hurricanes. So, and it's often an underappreciated one. So that will allow people to, again, access that rip current information that's always been there in a sort of an easy to view format from sort of a national level. And we're also going to be extending the lead time for which we issue forecast information for systems that aren't yet tropical depressions or tropical storms. For many years, that's been focused on that first 48 hours before we could see impacts on land. Now that's going to be extended out, at least in high confidence situations, out to 72 hours. So you can think about Helene last year, which we started issuing our advisory packages and forecasts for before it was even a tropical depression over the northwestern Caribbean. Now we would have the option to issue that information even a little sooner to give people more forecast information at longer lead times for those systems that develop close to land and can bring those impacts very quickly within just 2 or 3 days.
Makes complete sense, but ultimately, at the end of the day, our viewers out there, it is their responsibility. They have to get prepared. So here you go. You got the floor, okay? You're talking to West Central Florida right now. What is the one thing that you want these viewers to take out of this, and one thing they do as we go into this hurricane season?
Well, first, start off by finding out if you live in a storm surge evacuation zone. The Tampa Bay region, the West Central Florida coast, is one of the most storm surge prone parts of the entire United States. So find out now if you live in one of those evacuation zones, because that will form the basis of your entire hurricane plan for you and your family. You're going to, if you are in an evacuation zone, you would need to know how you're going to get to a safe place, where that safe place is going to be, and what you're going to take with you, and get that plan in place now ahead of a storm potentially threatening you and your family.
You know, I feel like after last year, a lot more people are going to be cognizant of this, and they're going to take that advice. And it's fantastic advice. I could not have said it better myself. Dr. Michael Brennan, Director of the National Hurricane Center, do appreciate you joining us today. See you soon, but hopefully not too soon, okay?
Thanks, Dave.